Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you've had a great week. This week we are reading chapters 13 to, I believe, 16 of the book of Judges. This is the story of Samson and then eventually Samson and Delilah. All right, let's get started. Chapter 13. The Israelites again offended the Lord, who therefore delivered them into the power of the Philistines for 40 years. There was a certain man from Zorah, of the clan of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. His wife was barren and had borne no children. An angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, "Though you are barren and have no children, yet you will conceive and bear a son. Now, then, be careful to take no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. As for the son you will conceive and bear, no razor shall touch his head, for this boy is to be consecrated to the Lord from the womb. It is he who will begin the deliverance of Israel from the power of the Philistines." Don't take a razor to his head. He's to keep his hair long. The woman went and told her husband, "A man of God came to me. He had the appearance of an angel of God, terrible indeed. I did not ask him where he came from, nor did he tell me his name, but he said to me, 'You will be with child and will bear a son. So take neither wine nor strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. For the boy shall be consecrated to God from the womb until the day of his death.' Manoah then prayed to the Lord. 'O Lord, I beseech you,' he said, 'may the man of God whom you sent return to us to teach us what to do for the boy who will be born.' God heard the prayer of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she was sitting in the field. Since her husband Manoah was not with her, the woman ran in haste and told her husband, 'The man who came to me the other day has appeared to me,' she said to him. So when Manoah went up and followed his wife. When he reached the man, he said to him, 'Are you the one who spoke to my wife?' 'Yes,' he answered. Then Manoah asked, 'Now, when that which you say comes true, what are we expected to do for the boy?' The angel of the Lord answered Manoah, 'Your wife is to abstain to choose not to have, to abstain from all the things of which I spoke to her. She must not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor take wine or strong drink, nor eat anything unclean. Let her observe all that I have commanded her.' Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'Can we persuade you to stay while we prepare a kid?'" And remember, again, here, a kid is a baby goat. "Prepare a kid for you." But the angel of the Lord answered Manoah, "Although you press me, I will not partake of your food. But if you will, you may offer a holocaust to the Lord." Not knowing that it was the angel of the Lord, Manoah said to him, "What is your name, that we may honor you when your words come true?" The angel of the Lord answered him, "Why do you ask my name, which is mysterious?" Then Manoah took the kid, the goat, took the kid with a cereal offering and offered it on the rock to the Lord, whose works are mysteries. While Manoah and his wife were looking on, as the flame rose to the sky from the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell prostrate to the ground. But the angel of the Lord was seen no more by Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord and said to his wife, "We will certainly die, for we have seen God." But his wife pointed out to him, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a holocaust and cereal offering from our hands, nor would he have let us see all this just now, or hear what we have heard." The woman bore a son and named him Samson. The boy grew up, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord first stirred him in Menahadan, which is between Zorah and Eshtal. Chapter 14. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there one of the Philistine women. On his return, he told his father and mother, "There is a Philistine woman I saw in Timnah, whom I wish you to get as a wife for me." His father and mother said to him, "Can you find no wife among your kinfolk, or among all our people, that you must go and take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?" But Samson answered his father, "Get her for me, for she pleases me." Now his father and mother did not know that this had been brought about by the Lord, who was providing an opportunity against the Philistines, for at that time they had dominion over Israel. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother. When they had come to the vineyards of Timnah, a young lion came roaring to meet him. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and although he had no weapons, he tore the lion in pieces as one tears a kid. However, on the journey to speak for the woman, he did not mention it to his father or mother what he had done. Later, when he returned to marry the woman who pleased him, he stepped aside to look at the remains of the lion and found a swarm of bees and honey in the lion's carcass. So he scooped out the honey out in his palms and ate it as he went along. When he came to his father and mother, he gave them some to eat without telling them he had scooped the honey from the lion's carcass. His father also went down to the woman, and Samson gave a banquet there, since it was customary for the young men to do this. When they met him, they brought 30 men to be his companions. Samson said to them, "Let me propose a riddle to you. If within the 7 days of the feast you solve it for me successfully, I will give you 30 linen tunics and 30 sets of garments. But if you cannot answer it for me, you must give me 30 tunics and 30 sets of garments." "Propose your riddle," they responded. "We will listen to it." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came forth food, and out of the strong came forth sweetness." After 3 days' failure to answer the riddle, they said on the 4th day to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband to answer the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your family. Did you invite us here to reduce us to poverty?" At Samson's side, his wife wept and said, "You must hate me. You do not love me, for you have proposed a riddle to my countrymen, but have not told me the answer." He said to her, "If I have not told it even to my father and my mother, must I tell it to you?" But she wept beside him during the 7 days the feast lasted. On the 7th day, since she importuned him, he told her the answer, and she explained the riddle to her countrymen. On the 7th day, before the sun set, the men of the city said to him, "What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion?" He replied to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon, where he killed 30 of their men and despoiled them. He gave their garments to those who had answered the riddle. Then he went off to his own family in anger, and Samson's wife was married to the one who had been his best man at his wedding. Chapter 15. After some time in the season of wheat harvest, Samson visited his wife, bringing a kid. When he said, "Let me be with my wife in private," her father would not let him enter, saying, "I thought it certain you wished to repudiate her, so I gave her to your best man. Her younger sister is more beautiful than she. You may have her instead." Samson said to them, "This time the Philistines cannot blame me if I harm them." So Samson left and caught 300 foxes. Turning them tail to tail, he tied between each pair of tails one of the torches he had at hand. He then kindled the torches and set the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines, thus burning both the shocks and the standing grain in the vineyards and olive orchards as well. When the Philistines asked who had done this, they were torn. Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because his wife was taken and given to his best man. So the Philistines went up and destroyed her and her family by the fire. Samson said to them, "If this is how you act, I will not stop until I have taken revenge on you." And with repeated blows, he inflicted a great slaughter on them. Then he went down and remained in a cavern of the cliff of Etam. The Philistines went up and from a camp in Judah deployed against Lehi. When the men of Judah asked, "Why have you come up against us?" they answered, "To take Samson prisoner, to do to him as he had done to us." 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cavern in the cliff of Edom and said to Samson, "Do you not know what the Philistines are our rulers? That the Philistines are our rulers? Why then have you done this to us?" He answered them, "As they have done to me, so have I done to them." They said to him, "We have come to take you prisoner, to deliver you over to the Philistines." Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves." "No," they replied, "we will certainly not kill you, but will only bind you and deliver you over to them." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the cliff. When he reached Lehi, and the Philistines came shouting to meet him, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. The ropes around his arms became as flax that is consumed by fire, and his bonds melted away from his hands. Near him was the fresh jawbone of a donkey. He reached out, grasped it, and with it killed 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey I have piled them in a heap. With the jawbone of a donkey I have slain 1,000 men." As he finished speaking, he threw the jawbone from him, and so that place was named Ramath-Lehi. Being very thirsty, he cried to the Lord and said, "You have granted this great victory by the hand of your servant. Must I now die of thirst, or fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Then God split the cavity in Lehi, and water issued from it, which Samson drank till his spirit returned, and he revived. Hence that spring at Lehi is called En-hakkore to this day. Samson judged Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Chapter 16. Once Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a harlot and visited her. Informed that Samson had come there, the men of Gaza surrounded him with an ambush at the city gate all night long, and all the night they waited, saying, "Tomorrow morning we will kill him." Samson rested there until midnight. Then he rose, seized the doors of the city gates. That just got really bright, didn't it? Seized the doors of the city gates and tore 2 gateposts and tore them loose, bar and all. He hoisted them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the ridge opposite Hebron. After that, he fell in love with a woman in the Wadi Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines came to her and said, "Beguile him, trick him to being interested in you, trick him to fall in love with you, and find out the secret of his great strength and how we may overcome and bind him so as to keep him helpless. We will each give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So pretty much they came to Delilah, and because they could tell that he liked her, and said, trick him into loving you, and ask him where his strength comes from. How can we bind him? Because he's super strong. So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you may be bound as to be kept helpless." "If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings which have not dried," Samson answered her, "I shall be as weak as any other man." So the lords of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings which had not dried, and she bound him with them. She had men laying in wait in the chamber, and she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he snapped the strings as a thread of tow is severed by a whiff of flame, and the secret of his strength remained unknown. Delilah said to Samson, "You have mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me how you may be bound." "If they bind me tight with new ropes, with which no work has been done," he answered her, "I shall be as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them. Then she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," for there were men lying in wait in the chamber, but he snapped them off his arms like a thread. Delilah said to Samson again, "Up to now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you may be bound." He said to her, "If you weave my 7 locks of hair into the web and fasten them with a pin, I shall be as weak as any other man." So, while he slept, Delilah wove his 7 locks of hair into the web and fastened them in with the pin. Then she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." Awakening from his sleep, he pulled out both the weaver's pin and the web. Then she said to him, "How can you say that you love me when you do not confide in me? 3 times already you have mocked me and not told me the secret of your great strength." She importuned him continually and vexed him with her complaints. She kept asking and complaining, until he was deathly weary of them. So he took her completely into his confidence and told her, "No razor has touched my head." He's never had his hair cut. "For I have been consecrated to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaved, my strength will leave me, and I shall be as weak as any other man." When Delilah saw that he had taken her completely into his confidence, she summoned the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up this time, for he has opened his heart to me." So the lords of the Philistines came and brought up the money. Remember, they're going to pay her for this. Brought the money with them. She had him asleep on her lap and called for a man who shaved off his 7 locks of hair. Then she began to mistreat him, for his strength had left him. When she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," and he woke from his sleep, he thought he could make good his escape, as he had done time and time again, for he did not realize that the Lord had left him. But the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. Then they brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze fetters, and he was put to grinding in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow as soon as it was shaved off. The death of Samson. The lords of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to their god, Dagon, and to make merry. They said, "Our God has delivered into our power Samson, our enemy." When their spirits were high, they said, "Call Samson, that he may amuse us." So they called Samson from the prison, and he played the buffoon before them. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has delivered into our power our enemy, the ravager of our land, the one who has multiplied our slain." Then they stationed him between the columns. Samson said to the attendant who was holding his hand, "Put me where I may touch the columns that support the temple, and may rest against them." The temple was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and from the roof about 3,000 men and women looked on as Samson provided amusement. Samson cried out to the Lord and said, "O Lord God, remember me. Strengthen me, O God, this last time that for my 2 eyes I may avenge myself once and for all on the Philistines." Samson grasped the 2 middle columns on which the temple rested and braced himself against them, one at his right hand, the other at his left. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed hard, and the temple fell upon the lords and all the people who were in it. Those he killed at his death were more than those he had killed during his lifetime. All his family and kinsmen went down and bore him up for burial in the grave of his father Manoah between Zorah and Eshtaol. He had judged Israel for 20 years. And that's the end of the story of Samson. Couple names, Samson and Delilah. You'll hear those in pop culture sometimes, like we talked about last week, and that's where it comes from. Israel was being oppressed. Angel came to Samson's mother and said, "You're going to bear a son," and he had superhuman strength, but the source of that strength was his hair. So, to clarify, his strength wasn't actually from his hair, it was from God. But in this case, God used his uncut hair as the source of his strength. And he was tricked by a woman into telling her his secrets, and it worked. But he had delivered Israel from the Philistines during his lifetime and in their death whenever he pulled the temple essentially on top of all of them. So anyway, that is where we're ending for this week. I hope you have a great 4th of July week. I forget what day it is. Thursday, I think. Wednesday or Thursday. I hope you have a great time. See some fireworks. That's what you like to do if you celebrate. And on that note, let us end with the Lord's Prayer. All right. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. All right, I will see you next week. Bye-bye.